All right, thank you again for coming. My name is Sharice Iglesias. I'm the Training and Resource Director here at Community Campus Partnerships for Health. And thank you all for coming to our second to last Lunch and Learn session. Today, we will be talking about sustaining partnerships, cultivating an ecosystem for sustainability promoting practices. So I just want to get to know who's here. I'm going to launch a poll. Asking you, how would you describe your level of experience with community partnership sustainability? So I'm just going to launch that right now. Please feel free to take the next 30 seconds to answer the poll. Again, just want to gauge who's here. Where are you coming from? What experience do you have? How would you describe your level of experience? I see somewhat experienced. Okay, good to know. Some very experienced and some not at all experienced. That's all really good to know. We're going to have a bit of a primer, and then we're going to have some really cool panelists talk about their stories of their successes, of the strengths and weaknesses of sustaining partnerships in their own lives. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. Awesome. Good to know. Good to know. Thank you. Okay, so for those who don't know, Community Campus Partnerships for Health, we are a public health nonprofit that promotes health equity and social justice through partnerships between communities and academic institutions. And a lot of our work is built on these strategic pillars. So we lead partnerships, convenings, we disseminate information and articles and resources, and we provide technical training such as these. And I just want to highlight one of our long-standing partnerships, the Clinical Scholars, funded by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation out of UNC Chapel Hill. For those who don't know, the Clinical Scholars is a wonderful group of clinicians who conduct research with their local communities to address health disparities. And as their longstanding partner, we provide technical expertise, thought leadership, and whatever else is needed to sustain the partnership. So now an icebreaker for the chat, just something short and quick, but we'd like to know your name and pronouns and where are you from? Like me, my name is Sharice Iglesias, she, her, and I'm from Northern California, from the San Francisco Bay Area. Hello, Al from Raleigh. Hello, Rose from New York. Yeah, feel free to just put in where you're from, and I'm going to continue with the presentation. So our learning outcomes today is to review components of authentic partnerships, describe an ecosystem of partnership sustainability, and describe practices that promote sustainability. And our key terms for today are principles of authentic partnerships, sustainability, and sustainability promoting practices. And I know y'all are still introducing yourselves in the chat, but I do want to move toward our first chat storms. We'd just like to know, what community partnerships have you worked with in the past? And you can mention partnerships that you're working on now. You can mention the number of partnerships. You can mention the types of community partnerships, where they're located. It's all free. Again, we just want to get to know you more before we start. Health departments, churches, yes. Area agencies on aging, schools. All right, excellent. Yeah, keep putting all that good stuff in the chat, but I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Alan Wells, who will lead us in this discussion on sustainability. Go ahead, Alan.
Good morning, everyone. How are you today? Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for joining us for Lunch and Learn. We just like to go over quickly just some common names and terms for authentic partnerships. What do we mean by authentic partnerships? Of course, when you're working with a group of individuals, there is no perfect formation. Communities don't work like a petri dish, but we have a common kind of set of values and goals that we work from. We call this an authentic partnership. An authentic partnership is guided by principles that we believe in, such as inclusion, and we're accountable to funders and the communities we serve through developing quality processes and meaningful outcomes, defining and solving problems together. And if we're sustained partnerships that are vibrant in a community, we build transformative experiences, whether it be impacting a health issue at hand or something that you've coalesced or connected over, to something as broad as even mentoring young people to come up and fill leadership roles in that particular partnership. So an authentic partnership is an organic organism. Today, we're going to be talking about sustaining them as an ecosystem, an interconnected ecosystem. Next slide, please. Moving along. From the next one, we look at here at principles. We look at our principles of partnership at community campus partnerships for health, and we like to sort of look at a partnership when we describe them and we lead them and we organize them as a group of individuals that are connected over for a certain goal, and they have certain structures, and we have structures that we practice these principles within. We have shared leadership, we have cleared roles. In this process, we strive for diversity, shared power decision making, shared ownership. And in outcomes, we look at measurable outcomes that are shared and developed by the community together. We look at partnership benefits, and we look at the increased capacity of community engagement, of outreach, of making an impact over time. And the last in this list of the process is partnership sustainability, which is sort of ongoing. I see Sarah from Milwaukee. I think I know you, not to interject. But partnerships are connected, and we're going to be talking to two experts today who really have a lot of good stories about how to manage these in the field and how to support them and how they work. So I'm just going to move on from here to the next slide, please. And next slide, we're going to be talking about sustainability, and I will hand it over to my esteemed colleague, Emily Finley. Thanks, Emily.
Thanks, Alan. Hi, everyone. So glad to be here today with all of you. So as we all know, there are a lot of challenges to sustainability, but one of the main ones is that the structure of our grant funding, whether public or private, often supports short-term, time-limited projects and may not require consideration of the future of a partnership beyond that project. And so sustainability can sometimes become an afterthought as we work to meet those project-specific milestones. But what does sustainability really mean when we're talking about community academic partnerships? Well, there was an article recently published by some leading community-based participatory researchers, and they define sustainability as supporting an ecosystem that advocates for beneficial relationships between academic and community partners. So if we think about an ecosystem in ecology, it's a system where every single life form and element of that system is interdependent. So every time you change one element or add something or take something away, it affects all the other life forms in that ecosystem. And so, all of the structures, processes, and components of our partnerships will feed into overall sustainability. And so sustainability really is the capacity to maintain the partnership's work and or ongoing relationships to both achieve collective goals and also respond to challenges as well as opportunities that impact the long-term viability of the partnership. We've all heard the expression, the only constant is change. And so sustainability relates to how partnerships can weather the change that will inevitably come. So next slide, please. So some components of sustainability include being able to distinguish between the work of the partnership, those specific projects and outcomes and metrics, as well as the ongoing relationships, among partners outside of any particular funding stream or project, as well as the ability to work towards partnership goals over time, regardless of available resources. Ultimately, sustainability allows you to persevere through changes that impact the partnership. So we want to highlight some examples of partnerships and organizations that are doing the work to build long-term sustainability. So one is the Detroit Community Academic Urban Research Center, or URC. Detroit URC hosts an annual community-based participatory research partnership academy and conducts workshops on capacity building for community-based community academic partnerships. And they also host a training on community-based organization rights in research. So I recommend checking out Detroit URC and their amazing work. Next slide, please. So, these are some broad tips for building an ecosystem that supports equitable partnerships. So sustainability can be promoted through strengthening and capacity building practices at multiple levels of the partnership. Enhancing partnership structure and membership to sustain ongoing relationships, and advocating for your partnership at the institutional level. That advocacy piece can be a way for institutions that traditionally have more power and influence to really help advocate for the importance of integrating community-based organizations and partners into the work. And so another project to highlight is Engaged for Equity, a project led by universities of New Mexico and Washington to develop and test a conceptual model of community-based participatory research, as well as identify promising engagement and partnering practices that contribute to research, partnership capacity, and health outcomes. So the Engage for Equity website has a number of publicly available resources and tools to promote effective partnerships. So also recommend looking at all of their resources. So next slide, please. So what are some concrete actions that can be taken to promote equity and sustainability? One is to optimize indirect rates. This refers to funding structures for our partnerships to increase the financial resources and flexibility of community-based partnerships to make sure that they're paid for the full scope of the work that they're doing. Mentoring community leaders by providing trainings and resources is a very important action. And as well as challenging traditional evaluation practices. So that means asking community members and those most affected by the issue, what outcomes are important to them what metrics should be tracked, and what success looks like to them. Community members may have a different definition or framework of success than academics. And so it's really important to make sure that those concepts are mutually understood and respected among the partners. So for next slide, please. So we would love to hear from you once again to list some ways that we can sustain our partnerships between funding periods. What are some strategies that you have used or that you might use to do that? And then I'm going to hand it back over to Alan to introduce our speakers.
Thank you, Emily. And this is, again, just a quick run through of some of the basics of sustainability. And while you're writing in some of the partners that you've worked with to kind of brief us and let us get to know you a little bit better, I'd like to introduce our panelists very quickly. First, we'd like to introduce Shamika McNeil. Shamika McNeil is a multi-talented individual who I would say has a deep understanding of the relationship between food and health. Growing up in a family with a long history of preventable health conditions, she developed a passion for promoting good health through a nutritious diet. She has a decade of experience working in the health sector and is well versed in the importance of healthy eating. In fact, she is a chef herself, and it's a pleasure to have her today and learn about her partnerships. Our second panelist is the leader of our group here at Community Campus Partnerships for Health, Mr. Al Richmond. He's the executive director. He's a global thought leader on advocating the increased role of communities in research and public health. And I think that really says it all about Al. And you can read their full bios in the chat section right there. So I'm going to start off with the panelists today. First, thank you so much for being here, Shamika and Al. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you, Alan.
Well, thanks for being here. We'd like to get the panel rolling. We love to hear stories. We like to hear, on paper, you have a partnership, and then you're out in the field managing these people, places, and things. And it's a whole different ballgame. And so we'd like to talk about that today because everyone here is having that experience and growing in that experience. So to y'all, I'm going to throw it out to Mr. Richmond first, my leader. What is an authentic partnership? When we talk about that, what are we saying? What's going on with that?
Yeah, thank you, Alan. I'm excited about today. I mean, as I just listened to the opening of the webinar, it just really sparked in me a lot of ideas about partnerships. I mean, I love talking about partnerships, and it's certainly a pleasure to be on the webinar with Shamika. For me, authentic partnerships are really about partnerships that really value all of the partners, everyone that's at the table. That's easier said than actually done. We talk a lot about honoring each other. We talk a lot about partnerships, but authentic partnerships, as you described in terms of our principles of partnership, are partnerships that really have meaningful outcomes, provide transformative experiences, and have quality processes. And all of those are just really important. One of the things that I believe that all of us have come to understand, if we didn't understand it before the pandemic has taught us this invaluable lesson about the interdependence of this ecosystem. We need everyone. We need every community-based organization, every mosque, every temple, every church, every group involved in public health response. We cannot sacrifice any of these partners. And so as I listened today, just the introduction, and I hope we will get into this, is this idea of interdependence. And this is why sustaining these authentic partnerships are so important. None of us could have imagined back in, say, 2017, 2018, when we were forming some of our partnerships, that we would have a pandemic. What I say to people is that if I had not fostered partnerships pre-pandemic, this organization probably wouldn't have made it. because it was all of those partnerships that we had launched all of these years that really helped us as we moved into this truly virtual space to be engaged with partners across the United States. I mean, we work with some of your organizations that are, that you're representing today and others. And again, it's been 25 years of fostering authentic partnerships such that when we could not travel, when we could not reach out and touch and be in person, we had to pick up a phone or email to reach out to our partnerships, and really engage them in the work that we've been doing for the past almost 5 years. So the other thing I want to say is that when I think about partnerships is, it's something that you can feel. You know when it's real, you know when it's authentic, and when it's just transactional. And there are a lot of partnerships that are transactional. We have a contract with someone, we have milestones and deliverables, and we're just trying to get through delivering those so that we can get paid. I'm not talking about just a transactional partnership or relationship. I'm talking about something much deeper that is almost at the gut level, the visceral level, where you feel it, you know it, there's trust, there's transparency, and all of those elements. Shamika, what does that mean to you in terms of an authentic partnership when you think about it in your work?
In my work, piggybacking off of you, it would be mostly shared vision, a diverse environment, like you spoke of, adapting to change. That's all we had to do. And also, celebrating our successes, being happy for one another, genuinely being happy for one another, and regular communication, not just, as you just said, we're just trying to get through this grant, or we're just trying to get through this project, even without the project, even when the project is done. Hey, let's go do this. Do you know about this? How's your kids doing? Things like that. And in my line of work, I developed this superpower of being kind of like a translator between researchers and community organizations, where some say we have a grant or a project and some community organizations want to, be involved, but not understanding the lingo. Where I came in to help me with my partnerships is that I understand the research from having a medical background first, that I can translate it to community-based organizations like, hey, I know they said all of these words, but this is what this means, because sometimes you have to build, not sometimes, all the time, you have to build trust. I have to feel like I can be able to talk to you, because the way I talk to a researcher might be different than the way I talk to a community, a CBO organization, but it's still the same language. So that forms partnerships too, because if they don't understand, then I'm the person that they come to, and I'm a trusted person in the community.
So Shamika, you mentioned celebration, like celebrating accomplishments. So talk a little bit more about how we really bring that into in terms of celebrating. Can you share some examples of that?
Yeah, me and another organization went for the same funding. I didn't get it, but they got it. And I
Yeah,
was happy that they got it because we worked together.
right.
So with that type of celebration, because I am genuinely happy, it brings opportunities for more doors to open in the future, because it's not like, okay, everybody knows that grants are really hard. You have to have the gift of the pen and things like that. But if someone sees that you're really happy for them, the next time it comes around, they'll be happy for you, or either try to help you or let you know that something else is going on. Not even just like in the grant world, it's also I brought back the barter system. So if they have something that I need, and I have something they need, because with organizations we have to make a dollar out of 15 cents somehow, you know, just doing that type of transaction, even though it's not monetary, it's more like a tangible thing that also lets them know that, hey, she's a good partner. Or I'm like, hey, they're a good partner. If I need something, I know I can call on them with no problem, no repercussions, no thinking that, oh, well, since you do this, I'm keeping a tally on how much I did for you and things like that. Just being having, like I said, regular communication. And as you said, like even with churches, some churches I may need people for something. They may need programs for something. That's still a partnership.
Yeah, that's important because in the space of community-based organizations, we oftentimes talk about community campus partnerships, but even within the community, wherein there's an environment and this phenomenon wherein we're in such competition with each other that we cannot be true partners and complement each other, right? So
Mm-hmm.
the system oftentimes is set up such that it's a competitive marketplace
Mm-hmm.
wherein we're all as community-based organizations kind of pursuing the same funding.
Mm-hmm.
And when I don't get it, I'm not happy and I'm not celebrating others who get it. And I think that's so important to remove that
Yes.
element of competition
Mm-hmm.
because you're right. When someone else gets it and I know them and I'm in a partnership with them, I oftentimes can benefit from it in maybe an indirect way through intangibles or through relationships, or they can bring me into the work,
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So I appreciate you sharing that idea of removing that competition um, from the conversation, from the relationship, and from the partnership. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Shamika. I mean, it really is true that in your community, you have to keep the hope alive and your goal alive, interdependent of these opportunities that come and go. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? You have to keep that alive.
Yeah, Alan, and someone in the chat, I was looking that they said that one of the things that they do to in terms of sustaining these relationships is that they share information with another group. And I do that all the time. Like I
Yeah.
just say, I received this funding announcement. It's not perfect for me. We don't do this, or this
Mm-hmm.
sounds just perfect for you. And I send that out. And guess what? People send me stuff all the time. Like it is you're creating that environment, that ecosystem, if you will, where there's a shared sense of we're all in it together. And maybe I can't get it. Maybe it's the timeline doesn't work for me. The scope of the work isn't consistent with what we do as an organization. It's just not the right time. It could be a number of things, but hey, if you can benefit from it, and guess what? I'll be more than glad to send you a letter of support.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
right.
when I need you, you're there for me. That's really about sustainability.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah. So one of the things that we've been talking about with these national groups is that, and one thing I really appreciate you saying, Shamika, is that you are a translator. You help the community message. You help them, and you keep all this alive. And so, what are some other practices that kind of on a regular basis you would say to the audience out there, other people learning today, like what's on your list to do to check in with people and keep it going?
I send out what I do is I send out Christmas cards to clients, sponsors, and partners to let them know that I appreciate I appreciate, the things that they do. I also invite them to events. Say if I have an extra ticket to go to a fundraiser or something like that, and I'm like, hey, you want to be my plus one? The more the merrier, things like that. Also, just do little, I call them wellness calls. Just do little calls like, hey, how's everybody going? What's going on with your organization, but not keeping it in the organization realm, but talking to them as a person, just have a mutual respect. Like, hey, I was thinking about you, or I saw this, and this. I'm just calling to, check in, see how you doing. That is, I do that a lot to people, but not as much as be like, okay, I'm gonna put her on mute. But they know that I'm checking in, just to see, not far as work, because it might be other aspects that we may need help in. Maybe they're having a bad day and they just need to vent. You can't help everybody, or they might see something and say, hey, it's a sale over here, and I know you was just doing that. That still is keeping, a sustainable partnership because we're always in the loop.
No, I'm telling you, Shamika, we're in sync on this. That's one of the things I do is, good or bad when I'm driving, I just call people randomly just to check in. excuse me, I sent text messages. The other thing something that you shared, Shamika, that came to mind is recently I sent a text message to one of my partners and I said, it's been a while since we've talked. Miss talking to you. And that person said, it has been a while. Let's do something about that. And that really, that was really nice. Like, I don't know that from the moment I began to think about today's conversation, I was just really thinking about the personal aspects of partnerships. We think about these organizational relationships, but we don't think about the personal. And behind all these partnerships are people.
Mhm.
And I consistently say to people is that people do business with people they like. It's just that simple.
Yeah,
And you know,
right.
I like you and you like me, we're going to do business together. It's like we trust each other. We like each other. We may even love each other, that kind of thing. But people do business with people they like. And that's what I really try to do in all the partnerships that I'm a part of. And the partnerships that mean the most to me are those that I have a real personal relationship with. Um, that allow people to check in with me. I um I had a bout of COVID and I received an outpouring of love from partners. I was willing to share that with people. People sent me chicken soup. I had all kinds of chicken soup. I didn't know there were so many different types of chicken soup. I had Italian chicken soup and Mexican chicken soup. Chicken soup is universal. But people were sending notes to me, checking in on me, all of that. That meant a lot to me. Um, and so I just agree with Shamika in so many ways that these little they're not little and they're not insignificant ways of sustaining that partnership. You sustain it through the relationships.
And
Yeah.
another way I also do that, I get my volunteers involved too. Like I may say, hey, I need to write this many Christmas cards or this, and this. This is the basis of it. And then I'm gonna give you creative control to give the ending. That shows the volunteers that you actually care about the people you have helped, who have helped you, or even who you just became a partner with. Because I had a volunteer was like, hey, you do Christmas cards for everybody. I was like, yeah, and some birthday cards if I have their address. Thanks to my grandma, she had a whole box of them, so I just use hers, so they won't go to waste. But just and that's part of getting the community involved, and that's fostering other sustainable relationships with volunteers that may be involved in other organizations to tell another organization, hey, we helped Slice 325. We did Christmas cards, we did thank you cards, we did get well cards. And I thought that was pretty cool because you don't really see too many organizations doing that. It may cost a stamp, or you may just put it in like a bag when you're going by or whatever. And everybody loves a card. Hey, how you doing? Thank you. How your mom and them, things like that. Just to make them feel like somebody thought about me,
Yeah.
genuinely thought about me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The world works on relationships, and that's what partnerships are all about. Okay, y'all, this is time where we shift. I asked you to tell a story. Let's tell a story. What story? And it doesn't have to be a story with a, a positive, glorious outcome. It could be something that didn't work. And I'm going to start with Mr. Richmond here.
Oh, I
Notes
see.
from the field. Lessons
Yes.
from the field with Al.
Yes, I was going to tell a story about what didn't work, and maybe I'll come back to that one. But I will tell about one that has worked really well, because I think it's worth sharing in the spirit of the conversation today. So I've had a long-term partnership with Giselle Corby. Dr. Corby is a professor at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. And our partnership goes back to maybe the second or third week when she arrived on campus, maybe about 20 years ago. We were in a meeting together. And over these 20 years, we have maintained a partnership between the two of us, not just between um, our organizations. And this predates when I was at CCPH. I mean, this is when I was working at Wake County Human Services, when I worked with Strengthening the Black Family Incorporated, when I worked with other groups. I have maintained that partnership for over 20 years. And though I've been with different organizations, I brought that partnership with me. I mean, because I have a partnership with her. Again, people do business with people who they love, trust, all of that. And that partnership has been amazing. We have co-presented together. We have worked on manuscripts jointly. We have received funding, big funding and little funding, all of that. But the partnership is just sustained. Now, what I will say is that in recent years, maybe the last year or so, Dr. Corby has moved on to a new position at the university. Well, we're not directly involved in a project. We work together most recently with the Right X Up project, and we work together with the RWJF Clinical Scholars Program. But because of a change in her position, we don't have any direct projects together. But our partnership and relationship is still there. It's together. And so we're going to be in partnership if we have funding or not. And so that's just the reality. And so I have a lot of examples of that. And those are the kinds of partnerships and relationships that just mean so much to me, that just there are ebbs and flows of funding, but the partnership and the relationship is still there. It's very much intact. Shamika?
You want me to do good or bad?
You can
I'm
share.
gonna say bad.
Yeah, share one. You were talking about one earlier. Let's talk about that.
Well, this one, this story, it's an in between. It's in between.
Okay.
It's still all right, but you could have let me know something. I had a long time partner ever since 2017 when I started. They helped me out a whole lot. Was there for me, everything. So recently, they left their position, and I had to find out through email. And I was like grabbing my pearls because I'm like, I thought we were better than this. So after I read the email or whatever, I made a phone call to be like, hey, you know why I'm calling you? What's going on? I'm only doing this because of you. I don't really know the rest of them too well. I've been in a couple of situations with them when they're very colorful people, but I'm doing this in support of you. So, what's going on? So they told me what was going on and things like that. And I respected their decision and things like that. But moving forward, I don't think that our partnership with an organization will be as fruitful and as beneficial because the person that I had a relationship will not be there anymore. And the people who are there now, we don't share the same focus. And when I say, when I say focus, I mean, a mutual respect in some aspects. And where I am a seeker for knowledge is like, it's not broke, don't fix it, no innovation, anything like that. And I just can't breathe in those spaces. But the person that decided to move on, we still will have a partnership later on because they are still connected with things and things like that. But I will say, if anybody is in a partnership with an organization, let your partner know what's going on beforehand. Because reading the email, I'm not even going to, be real candid with you all. Reading the email, I kind of felt a certain type of way. Like, why did they just call me before, this happened, just to give me a heads up? But they had their reasons. I still respect their decision. We're still going to be partners and things like that. So that's it's not so good, but it's going to be okay.
No, but it happens more often than what sometimes we think. And what you're talking about, Shamika, is this idea of actually being transparent. So when let's put this in the context of community campus partnerships. So before Giselle, as in, this is the truth, and so you can share it with her. As she was transitioning into a new position, she called me up and she just was very honest with me. She said, I'm moving into a new position. Here are the implications of that. And I appreciated that. I didn't read about that in an email, right? She called me because she valued this 20-year plus relationship, partnership. And so I think that that's what we all want. We don't want to read about something in an email. We don't want to read about it on CNN. We don't want to read about it in the newspaper, as if we still read newspapers. But that's not what we want to hear about it. We want to hear about it from the individual. I want you to value this partnership enough. If you're leaving it, if there's a change, if there's a financial issue there, um, just pick up the phone and call me and let's talk it through. It may not change the outcome or impact, but at least on a personal level, I'm aware of what's going on. Yeah, no, I just appreciate that so much. Like being transparent and being honest with people, just do that. It's what all of us want, right? Like everyone wants to be treated like that.
Yeah. Thank you. You know, that's absolutely right. And I think one of the things that resonates with everyone is that you are driven by a higher goal. All of these partnerships are hung together with a will, a drive to improve the community and the love of people and all that. And that's what keeps the hope alive within them. Closing shout out. I can't leave FaceTime with Shamika McNeil to say that I always love your earrings, and today is no exception. You have the best earrings in the country. Let's put that on that list. So wrapping up, Al, a word of advice to our audience out here from all over the place.
It's not
Closing
easy.
thoughts.
Yeah, no, it's not easy. You know,
Not easy.
it
There
is
you
not.
go.
One of the things I want to share is that this whole idea of transparency, I just want to go back there and say that I think that for community-based organizations to be transparent, one of the things that we are as an organization really kind of grappling with right now is how transparent to be. You know, you want your partners to understand you, your challenges, um, your strengths and some of your weaknesses. And sometimes we can be guarded about that. So that takes a lot. But I just want to acknowledge that this idea of transparency takes a while to move into that space. Um, and yet it's so important because in these partnerships, people have to understand the challenges that you have. And community-based organizations have to do that. You know, they have financial limitations and challenges. And one of those areas is they need to let their partners know how it's coming financially. Like, I need to be paid on time. I need you to launch this contract with you. These are the things that I need in order to be able to do business. So I just think that's important. Shamika.
I do too, and also I'm really big on recognizing efforts. You know, um, in this space, it's you have good times, you have bad times. You celebrate the good times, you work on the bad times. The partners that I work with, like, okay, you having a bad time right now. That's okay. We're gonna work on it because it's not always gonna be bad. Just giving an assurance, mutual respect, you have to continuously learn. It's not like, okay, I'm the master trainer on this. Something else is a 2.0 and ready to come out, and talking to your partners about what's new, what's going on, being innovative, constantly learning, adapting to change because we don't know what's gonna happen next year, just and be honest. If I have a conversation with someone and I say I want you to be my partner, we're gonna have to be honest with each other on a lot of things to say, hey, yes, I can, no, I can't, I'm not sure, don't know the answer. You don't have to know all the answers, and just working towards what your common goal is and your shared vision. Because as CBO based organizations, we all have a shared vision, and that's the community.
Alan, where you're mute. Unmute.
Sorry about that. Thank you so much, both. I know our time is short, but we appreciate you sharing your thoughts and talents today. And it's my time to turn it back over to the moderator. But again, Shamika, thank you so much for joining us. And Al Richmond, always a pleasure. And I'm going to turn it over to finish out because you know that we want that evaluation in close out. So I'm going to hand it over to Sharice. And thanks again, sincerely,
Thank
to
you.
both of you.
Thank you, Shamika.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Okay, hold on. Add spotlight. I'm going to share my screen again. Yeah, thank you, Al and Shamika, for those wonderful stories. You know, the dips, the strengths and weaknesses was all really important. We try really hard to curate these shared learning experiences we have together like today. So if you're interested in this kind of topic or sessions like this, please feel free to check out our other training offerings that should be in the chat. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out at feedback@ccphealth.org. And like I said, we work really hard to create these shared educational learning spaces to be more inclusive, expansive, and we really value your input and feedback. So for the next 2 minutes, we're going to ask you to fill out this very short evaluation. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and put on some evaluation music for 2 minutes, and we're just going to focus on that. Please visit our website at ccphealth.org. Check us out on social media. And the last thing I want to talk about is we want to promote our very last Lunch and Learn, at least for this season. It's on Qualitative Research 101. We'll be talking about some qualitative research methods that pertain to community engaged research. And that's on January 10th. And I believe Alan or Emily will put that link in the chat so you can read more about our panelists and register for that date, for that very last session. And that's it. Thank you all very much for your engagement, your participation, your attendance, and we hope you have a lovely day.